Appraisal of REO and Foreclosure Properties, Chapter 2, Instruments Used in Foreclosure, Page 1, Chapter Overview.
Chapter Overview. In this chapter, titled Instruments Used in Foreclosure, we will start with an overview of the mortgage loan process. We will examine different legal documents that establish mortgages and deeds of trust, along with instruments that spell out the contractual obligations of the parties involved in the contract. In the second part of the chapter, we will examine the willingness of lenders to avoid foreclosure, and will look at 8 different loan workout solutions that a lender might employ. Learning objectives. Upon completion of this chapter, participants will be able to summarize the role of instruments in the foreclosure process, identify and understand different loan workout solutions. End of page. Introduction. As we noted in Chapter 1, lenders are in the business of selling money. They are not interested in owning and managing real estate. The lending of money secured by real estate follows a process, much of which is well established in law. The basic loan process is as follows. Borrower makes application. Borrower is approved. Property is appraised. Loan is approved. Instrument, contract, is created. Instrument is signed. Transaction takes place. Before we explore this process in greater depth, we must first cover some relevant terms and definitions. End of page. Instruments. The term instrument is defined in the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, Appraisal Institute, Chicago, 2022, as a formal, legal document, for example a contract, a deed, a lease, a will. There are several instruments used in a real property purchase. For example, a purchase contract is an instrument. In this course, we are interested in financing instruments. Because there are relatively few real property purchases that are made by cash buyers, the vast majority of real property transactions employ some form of financing instrument. The instrument may be one or more of the following: mortgage, promissory note, land contract. End of page. Mortgage. A mortgage is defined in the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, Appraisal Institute, Chicago, 2022, as a pledge of a described property interest as collateral or security for the repayment of a loan under certain terms and conditions. This word is derived from the French word mort, which means dead, and the Old English term gage, which means pledge. Literally translated, the word mortgage means dead pledge. The pledge to repay the debt dies either when the loan amount is repaid in full, or when the property is taken by foreclosure. End of page. Promissory note. A promissory note is defined in the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, Appraisal Institute, Chicago, 2022, as a written agreement between a lender and a borrower whereby the borrower agrees to repay a loan, plus interest, under conditions set forth in the agreement. Promissory notes are more frequently used in loans that are not secured by real property collateral. An unsecured promissory note is not attached to anything, meaning there is no right of repossession if the borrower defaults. When a promissory note is used in real property lending, it is secured by the title to the property, often a trust deed. In this situation, if a borrower defaults on the promissory note, the property can be taken, that is repossessed, by the lender. End of page. Land contract. A land contract is also known as a contract for deed. Contract for deed is defined in the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, Appraisal Institute, Chicago, 2022, as A contract in which the purchaser of real estate agrees to pay a small portion of the purchase price when the contract is signed and additional sums, at intervals and in amounts specified in the contract, until the total purchase price is paid and the seller delivers the deed. Used primarily to protect the seller's interest in the unpaid balance because default can be exercised more quickly than it could be under a mortgage. Also called land contract or installment, sale, contract. This is a form of seller financing, sometimes called owner financing. Land contracts were very common in the late 1970s and early 1980s when mortgage interest rates were very high and underwriting standards were strict. However, with today's relatively easy availability of mortgage money and historically low interest rates, the popularity of land contracts is on the wane. End of page. Contract. A contract is defined in the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, Appraisal Institute, Chicago, 2022, as a legally binding agreement between two or more persons that represents their promise to do or not to do a particular thing. In many jurisdictions, statutes of frauds, or their equivalent, may render a real property contract voidable if it does not consist of a signed, written agreement. Where real property is concerned, a contract is a dated, written, signed statement between two or more parties who agree to perform a legal act, for a legal consideration, within a specified time. Any contract should clearly define the responsibilities of all parties to that contract. It may be short and simple or long and complex. Contracts normally contain provisions for action if either party fails to perform the conditions of that contract. Most contracts for financing loans with real property collateral will contain some form of acceleration clause, which is sometimes also known as a call provision or power of sale clause. We will examine this clause on the next page. End of page. Acceleration clause. Acceleration clause is defined in the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, Appraisal Institute, Chicago, 2022, as a condition in a loan contract or mortgage note that allows the lender to demand immediate repayment of the entire balance if the contract is breached or other conditions for repayment occur, for example, sale or demolition of the property. In the absence of some form of acceleration clause or call provision, it would be difficult for the lender to start the foreclosure process on the entire amount due. Without this clause, the lender may be able to take action on the missed payments, but not have the right to take the entire property. With the acceleration clause, the lender calls the note and the borrower is required to repay the entire outstanding balance immediately. Failure to pay the entire amount typically, but not always, results in the start of the foreclosure process. End of page. Foreclosure timeline. The sequence of events in a typical foreclosure often looks something like this. Default. Acceleration clause activated. Acceleration notice issued. Foreclosure action, lawsuit and judicial action states. Order of execution. Public auction. Confirmation of sale. Sheriff's deed issued. End of page. Equitable right of redemption. In most states, the debtor has the equitable right of redemption, meaning the debtor may redeem, that is, save, the property from foreclosure, beginning at the time the foreclosure action is brought until the final foreclosure sale, by making full payment to the court of the amount owed including court costs and fees. In other states, this right of redemption is restricted to a specified time frame, depending on the type of instrument used and whether the state uses non-judicial or judicial foreclosure. The right of redemption is especially important in light of life events that are outside the control of the debtor. Often a debtor may overcome the life event and be able to once again establish a mortgage with the current lender or another lender, including private lenders. In many cases, The original lender will try to avoid taking back the property by employing loan workout solutions prior to starting the foreclosure process. As we stated in Chapter 1, foreclosure can be an expensive process for the lender, and thus it may behoove the lender to negotiate a less expensive alternative. Loan workout solutions represent such an alternative. Before we go on to examine loan workout solutions, let's check your understanding of the chapter so far. End of page.
Page 11, quiz. Number 1, contract for deed and installment sale contract are other terms used for A, foreclosure notice, B, promissory note, C, land contract, or D, warranty deed. I'm going to go C, land contract. Number 2, the acceleration clause in a mortgage demands repayment of A, only the missed payments, B, the entire mortgage balance owed, C, all back taxes, or D, 10% of the full amount owed. I'm going to go the entire mortgage balance owed. And lastly, number 3, the name of what financing term, literally translated, means dead pledge? A, commitment, B, promissory note, C, land contract, or D, mortgage? I'm going to go D, mortgage. Oh, wait. Oh, fuck. I know mortgage means death pledge. Yeah, that is, never mind. It's just another way. Dead pledge versus death pledge. Assessment completed. Finish. You passed. You got 100%. So remember, contract for deed and installment sale contract are other terms used for. You said land contract, and that was correct. The acceleration clause in a mortgage demands repayment of, you said, the entire mortgage balance owed. That was correct. The name of what financing term literally means dead pledge? You said mortgage, and that was correct. Continue. Page 12, loan workout solutions.
Loan workout solutions. As stated previously, foreclosure is a lengthy and expensive process for the lender, particularly in judicial foreclosure states. Therefore, lenders are often amenable to negotiating loan workout solutions with borrowers. Many of these workout solutions allow the borrower to keep the property. All of them permit the lender to avoid going through the foreclosure process. Loan workout solutions that could be considered or used by a lender in order to avoid the foreclosure process include reinstatement, forbearance, repayment plan, mortgage modifications, claim advance, sale, pre-foreclosure or short sale, deed in lieu of foreclosure, let a new buyer assume the existing loan. End of page. Reinstatement. Under reinstatement, the lender will accept full payment of the past due amount owed as of a specified date. In some cases, the debtor may be able to bring current the amount due. That is, he or she will pay all the past due payments including late fees, penalties, etc. If this occurs, the lender is willing to reinstate the mortgage under the original terms. Often it is a friend or family member who assists the debtor by virtue of a gift or personal loan. In many cases, this allows for the debtor to resume normal payments and remain current. Other times, this will simply forestall foreclosure. A property may fall into and out of default multiple times before finally going into foreclosure and being sold at auction. End of page.
Page 14, forbearance.
Forbearance. Forbearance is the refraining from taking legal action on a mortgage that is in arrears. Usually granted when the mortgagor makes a satisfactory arrangement to pay the arrears at a future date. If forbearance is granted, the lender agrees to take no action until a future date. This may be due to a future planned sale or some other reasonable action taken by the debtor to bring the loan current or to pay off the entire loan. Forbearance and reinstatement tend to go hand in hand. The lender is willing to reinstate the loan, but must have reasonable assurance of the time frame. Sometimes, but not always, forbearance and/or reinstatement will require an appraisal to be completed, since the lender is taking an increased risk. End of page. More on forbearance. Mortgage forbearance is not a new concept. It has existed for decades. However, it took a global pandemic and a federal law, the CARES Act, to bring this word into common usage. The website of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, states, forbearance is when your mortgage servicer, that's the company that sends your mortgage statement and manages your loan or lender, allows you to pause or reduce your payments for a limited period of time. Forbearance does not erase what you owe. You'll have to repay any missed or reduced payments in the future. So, if you're able to keep up with your payments, keep making them. The types of forbearance available vary by loan type. One common misconception is that mortgage forbearance means the same thing as mortgage forgiveness. As stated on the CFPB website, forbearance does not erase or reduce the debt. It merely means the borrower is permitted to pay reduced, or no, payments for a period of time. These missed payments will need to be made up at some point in the future. When and how these missed payments must be repaid is negotiated between the borrower and the lender. If a property owner receives forbearance under the CARES Act, the mortgage servicer cannot require the borrower to repay the skipped payments in a lump sum once the forbearance period ends. More information about mortgage forbearance under the CARES Act, including a short video, can be found on the CFPB's website here. End of page.